This podcast is sponsored by Path to Publishing, helping authors to take control over their publishing journey for over 21 years. Visit pathtopublishing.com to get on the path to publishing your next book.
Hi there, and welcome back to It's Truly Novel, the podcast where we talk about everything new on the internet. And with me is the always fabulous Tonya Todd, hostess of the 52 Love podcast. Now, Tonya, what is new for you?
Meow, Brandy, thank you for having me. What is new? I guess the newest thing would be that I am taking baby steps toward producing my first short film and directing it.
Wow.
Which is kind of exciting. It's a big step in my life, but I'm just making baby steps toward that goal.
Hey, baby steps are how you get there. So tell me, what's the film about?
Oh, I don't want to spoil it. It's kind of a noir detective film that has an underlying love story and a few surprises.
Nice. So film noir style, detective-ish. Okay. Does anybody die? Just spoiler alert. I mean, that is kind of what you expect for the genre, is that somebody's going to die.
It is what you expect from the genre.
All right.
And I hope I don't disappoint.
That's right. I have never known you yet to disappoint. So what got you inspired to do this new short film?
It was a story to start. It was actually my first short story that I ever had published. And the prompt for that short story was I had to write a tale of redemption that took place in Nevada. And so from there, I started writing what I thought was I thought I was in charge of the story, ha, ha, ha. And I wrote it in third person like I always do, because that's my preference. And it wasn't feeling right. And I switched it to first person as an experiment because one of my mentors taught me that it's, just play with it. You don't have to keep it that way, but try it. Maybe you'll learn something. And I learned quite a bit. This character just started revealing himself to me. And it stayed in first person because he was the one telling me the story. I was not the one telling the story. So it was really kind of cool. It was like, and what happened? And then what? And oh my gosh, I didn't know that. How did I not know that? That kind of thing.
Yes, I do. So tell us a little bit about this character. I mean, he kind of stepped out of your shadows, so to speak, and decided to take the limelight. So
yes. Well, he is a very old school gentleman, but he's made mistakes in his past, and he wants to clear his conscience and may have accidentally fallen in love in the process.
Oh, that does sometimes happen. Sometimes you accidentally
I don't want to say anything more
about
this because I'm still taking baby steps toward getting it. I have written it as a short film. I've given it to people to read. I have to incorporate a few more notes. I have it in a producer's hands, and we're still working on it.
That is exciting.
So I don't want to jinx it.
No, definitely not. And so you decided to be the director for this too?
Yes, I've been wanting to get into directing since I met Bonet, a mutual acquaintance of ours. And I don't know, this one feels like the right one because there's no role in it that I would feel comfortable playing. So this way I can just stand back and watch it. I have another short film that I wrote that I definitely want to play the female lead in that. So I don't think that's a good idea for me to direct my first film and have me starring in it, because that's wearing a lot of hats and it's very ambitious. And when I'm playing a character, I am that character. So it's going to take a lot to be able to switch hats and say, oh, let me look at this objectively. And then, oh, but this is how I feel. And this is what my character is going through,
All right. That is.
And that one is also a no talking film. So, it's just, let's not pile on too many things to make it a challenge for the first. Let me get this one under my belt, and then I can tackle that one with the information that I learned from this film.
Yeah, absolutely. And every film you do is a learning experience.
It
It's like
definitely is.
every script you've written is a learning experience.
That's right. Even if you don't end up using it, you have learned something just in the process of writing it. It all counts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you're an actress, and so that kind of lends itself, I suppose, toward the producing and the directing and screenwriting eventually. Did you ever see yourself going down this path all the way, though? I mean, was that the plan from the beginning, or?
When I began my creative careers, I started out as an author. And even one of the characters, the first character that I was writing about, one of the other characters told her, "You seem more like a director than an actor." And I took offense to that. Like, I'm quote unquote writing it, but it's like, you're saying that because she's bossy, and that's the quality she gets from me, And, often you can see how you want it to be played out. That's an issue that a lot of screenwriters, it's a mistake that they make, that they are trying to direct the film through what they write on the page. That's not your job as a screenwriter. You're not supposed to tell the actor what to do. You're not supposed to tell the director how to film it. Your job is to give them the blueprint for the story. Well, when I'm writing it, it's hard to let go of that. So if I'm not planning on trying to sell it to someone, then I can incorporate the vision that I have when I'm writing it. So I've always had it in the back of my mind that I want to be in creative control of how this plays out on screen. Now, the truth is, when you're making a film, you're never completely in control unless you do every piece of it. I don't have editing skills. I don't know how to run a sound booth. Those are not skills that I have. So it's definitely going to be a collaboration for me. And I would much rather use the expertise of people who know how to do this and have been doing it for years than try to be a control freak and do it all myself and do it poorly. Even though that is a great way to learn, I don't want to learn with this particular, I don't want to learn hard lessons like that with this particular script because I love it. Maybe if it was something I was just playing with, but I'm not playing here.
Yeah. And I can understand that. I think that is the difference between being an author versus producing movies, is that movies are much more of a collaborative effort, and
Yes.
every artist is putting their best into, well, you hope every artist involved is putting their best into it. So it's kind of going to be this hybrid of what you envisioned versus their collective visions as well.
Right.
So it does require kind of stepping back from that desire to control everything, to have your vision be the vision, and to accept other people's creative input, which may be a challenge for some people, depending on their level
Definitely.
of ability to humble themselves a little bit and maybe let somebody else share that spotlight.
And you need to be open to other people's ideas. They might see something that you missed because you only have two eyes. When you have all these other people in the room, they might have an idea that makes your film even better. Let them help you develop it rather than putting it in place so it's yours.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing, is to let go and let somebody else maybe give you an idea that you never would have come up with, because you only have that limited perspective to bring to the table.
And because I am an actor, I've been on set, I've seen that there has never been a script that I have read and then gone to set and it plays out exactly like it says on the page. There's always something that happens, something that changes. You can't get the right location. You don't get it shot in time and the sun is going down. Like, just things happen. You can't be in complete control. You just can't. So you have to be adaptable. And if you go into it knowing you're going to have to tweak what you have on the page to make it work or to make it look better. Sometimes what you wrote doesn't work cinematically. It sounds great in theory, but again, it's just a blueprint to give you a starting point. Once you get on set, that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah,
and then you hope to have an editor that will be able to piece it together and make it look as awesome as it possibly can.
And seamless at the same time. Like, it was meant to be this way from the beginning. But it's an interesting thing, though. I think as writers, we do have that, though. Even you mentioned, in a sense, our characters play that role for us. We
Yes.
have this idea about where things may go. But in the end, our characters are like, yeah, about that.
Right.
No. I know that's what you wanted me to do, but I'm not feeling it today.
No.
Or that's not who I am. You've gotten me all wrong. You don't really
Or I
understand.
don't care about that. Yes, that used to be my goal. When the story started, that was important to me, but all this other stuff happened and I don't care about that anymore. I care about this. Quit trying to make this the story. It's not the story.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's matured. It's kind of like the rough draft is where you find out what the story is as a writer. And then
tell
like
yourself the story.
yeah, exactly. And then the next draft is you polishing that, starting to polish and refine that story and pull out the stuff that doesn't make sense for the actual story. You may still use it somewhere down the line. It can be great stuff to put in a blog or great stuff to put in an anthology related to the initial book. But you don't have to have it in there. Like backstory. Totally good to have, not necessary to give to the reader. Like it doesn't need to be stitched into the fabric.
You need to know this. You need to understand the character's motivations, but you don't need to put every detail on the page.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't make your reader slog through it, you know?
Yeah,
I want to know what's happening right now.
Yeah, we want to know where the action is now. Can you imagine if you had to interrupt a movie every 5 minutes to go back in time to tell us part of the story?
That's because of this.
Yeah. See what's happening here? That's because of this. See what's happening here? That's because of this. And we're like, meanwhile, can we please just get to what's happening? Because I'm getting lost.
You know, I've seen that in critique groups where someone's reading and then they'll take a break in their reading and say, that's because of this and this and this. Don't do that. Just read it. And if people need clarity, they will ask you when you're done reading. You know, after you've presented the work, then you can answer any questions. If you feel you need to explain it mid-read or mid-chapter, then something's not on the page. Yeah. Or maybe it is, and you're just not trusting yourself and your readers to see it and to grasp it. Give your reader a chance to get it without you having to hold their hand through it.
Yeah, I think that's something that when you're starting to write, you sometimes maybe want to spoon feed the reader what you want them to know. Right. And instead of letting them draw their own conclusions, because in a sense, a reader is a cooperator in the art that you're creating. Right. Once you put it in their hands, their interpretation of what you meant becomes part of the artwork.
And everything they have experienced colors how they read this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so you lose control of how they're going to interpret it once you put it in their hands. So you need to become comfortable with that and stop correcting everybody and telling them, no, this is the way, this is the only way it can be interpreted.
Right.
So I like the idea. I haven't implemented it yet, probably because I haven't released too many fiction pieces. But I like the idea of cultivating a group of fan fiction writers around your work and, kind of vetting them. You don't want just anybody writing fan fiction in your world, but giving them the rules for the world, giving them how things operate, where things are located, and then letting them play in your sandbox.
I know of people who do collaborations like that, where they have a joint world and they each get to write their different segments and it's all part of the same world and they're doing very well at that.
And personally, I think it's a genius idea because it takes the author's work and essentially gives you an unlimited ability to expand it. Because I guarantee you, if you have a committed fan base, you will have no end of people contributing to that.
It also helps you diversify the worlds because, you're only one person, you only have one set of experiences. You bring in other people, they're going to bring in whatever their lived experience has been and the worlds that they have seen. And it just expands it exponentially. Yeah.
It's kind of like the game. Well, part of the reason I came up with that idea is I'm a gamer also, just for, so mods are a very common thing. Modifications to the game are a very common thing for fans to do. They'll take the game and make slight modifications to it that expand the usability of the game and expand its initial capabilities there are games that are still being played from 20, 30 years ago because of mods. They just make the world so much richer and so much more innovative, and it keeps the lifeblood going. And I think if we allowed that more as writers, if we gave people the ability to play in our sandbox more, we would see our work have a lot more oomph to it. There would be a lot more possibilities with it. So,
what's your go-to game?
The Sims has been for years now. I haven't played a lot of The Sims in months, mostly because I've been head down working on projects, but that have taken up my time. But yeah, I mean, it is good. It is good, but you also have to balance sometimes. But one of the things I love to do with The Sims,
what's that?
It's a concept I've heard of. I'm still working on it.
Is that when you only work half a day on holidays? Is that...
yeah, basically. It's when you sort of emerge from your work and remember that it's important to eat, to breathe, to sleep.
I just had an opportunity to audition for a movie that's going to be shot here in Las Vegas, but the movie is filming when I'm supposed to be on vacation with my siblings. I asked them, the truth is I don't really think I'm right for the role, but I still wanted to be in front of the casting directors because it's good to make that FaceTime. You should book the room, don't worry about the role. So I asked my siblings, are you comfortable with me auditioning on the off chance that I might get cast and it'll affect how many of the days I can be present on the vacation? Yeah, they weren't excited about that because, number one, they're presuming that I would get the role, which they have no idea how many roles you have to audition for before you actually get, the percentage is ridiculous. It's never a given that you're going to get the role. And secondly, they said, you're going to be working on this vacation already. We're doing this road trip as research for one of your books. You're already working. You need to just unplug and take a real vacation. And it was, I am going to be working on this trip. I forgot about that part. It just seemed normal. Like I forgot what that meant to them, that they already know. We already don't have 100% of you for this trip. Now you're going to add this to it. All right, so I won't audition for this one and we'll just, take my chances next time.
Yeah. Well, I think there is this tendency to get so caught up in our careers that we forget about the importance of relationships, outside of work, outside of that. And so I've been making a concerted effort to take time for relationship building, even though it's like, I have so much work to do.
I know. That is the thing.
But I do find that it is good. It gives me that refresher. I come back to my work better. I come back to my work with new perspectives because I've had more conversations, more thoughts, more ideas.
The problem is when you're in those social situations and you're like, I just have the fix for this thing and I can't do anything with it right now because it would be
that would be rude. The easiest thing for me is that I get my granddaughter usually on Sundays, so it makes it easier to set everything aside and say, okay, no work, just she's 2. There's not much work I can do anyway.
Right. Yeah, and you're pretty occupied probably with the 2-year-old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's a full-time gig. No part-timing her. Yeah, but I do like it when I get, she's the highlight of the week, so, and very entertaining.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think we can get too wrapped up in our work to the point where we sideline other relationships. I have been so guilty. So busy getting where I thought I wanted to be or needed to be that I wasn't paying attention to the people in my life, which is something that I had to learn to rejuggle those priorities a little bit. Because after all, a lot of the work that I was doing.
They're not in the arts, they don't get how focused you need to be. They don't understand, look, I need a block of time where I can focus on this because every time I'm pulling away from it, I have to start over. So it might seem like I'm working on this for 4 hours. Every time I'm interrupted, I have to take time away from that, and I don't get that 4-hour solid block. It's or depending on how many interruptions I get.
Yeah.
That's why notifications go off,
Oh yeah.
ringer
And
off, all of that.
I have to do that to myself sometimes too, because I have to unplug from social media. I don't want to entirely turn off the internet because sometimes I need to step back and do research, but I have to limit my research time because otherwise it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole. You start off researching, then you check your email, then you check this, then you check that. Before you know it, you don't have any writing done and you still haven't gotten anything accomplished. It's like, where did my time go? I think
I try to take those moments and just write myself a note during research time, look up this, and then you fill it in later. That way you're not writing time to do that research time, and then you don't go down the rabbit hole. You might go down the rabbit hole, but it doesn't cut into your writing time, which is the important thing.
Yeah, you'll just, and that is something I have to get back to doing, is segregating the research time from the writing time, because research should be its own block of time.
It definitely should, because you don't know what you're going to find, and it could change things.
It could change.
And there's no such thing as wasted writing time.
No, really, there's not. I mean, even if you don't end up using it in that particular segment, what you have learned about yourself and your characters in the process of doing that writing is invaluable for what you're going to create later. You may have written
a jewel of a sentence for somebody else.
That's right. Maybe a line of dialogue that never appears in this book, but maybe it appears in another one.
Right. It gets you closer to what does need to be there.
Mm-hmm. Or at least gets you to the point where you understand, okay, who this character is, and why they have such a sassy attitude. Because, sometimes I'll just write bits of dialogue, nothing else on the page, just bits of dialogue, and let the characters play back and forth, because you sort of get a feel for who they are based on what they say in response to one another.
My stories usually come to me as dialogue first. And I think maybe it's my experience with plays. I don't know. It's just the conversation is there, and then I need to fill it in with the atmosphere and their body language, their inner thoughts, that kind of thing. The dialogue is almost always first.
Well, maybe that's related to your screenwriting, because that's kind of one of those things where that would be helpful as a screenwriter, to put the dialogue on the page first and then fill in, what do we got going on here? Where are they?
I didn't start screenwriting until years after I was writing books. So, but I was still using screenplays. I was still reading them, and I was still acting with them. And I read plays too. Like, I'm a big Shakespeare fan. I remember I reached a point in one of my revisions where, oh my gosh, I have 3 pages of just dialogue. And I know that I was reading some Shakespeare plays during that time in my life. It didn't even occur to me as I was drafting, you don't have anyone doing anything here. You're just talking. That's why you revise,
Yeah, and you do have to walk that line when you're writing a book. You can't just have them sitting there for 5 pages doing nothing but talking.
No.
There better be some action going on, or you're going to lose a reader.
Right. Yeah, there needs to be momentum.
I mean, even the most titillating of dialogue still needs something to support it. Are they walking? Are they lounging around the house? What are they doing while they're talking? Maybe they're washing dishes. One of them is washing dishes and the other one's playing video games. That can tell you a lot about the character too. Just what they're doing while they're talking, is one of them.
I was just talking to a critique partner about this, because she had a character arrive at a location and then get out of her car, and then all of this inner dialogue was going on. And I told her, just pan out and view this from the camera's perspective. She has literally gotten out of her car and she is just standing there. She is standing there for all of these lines, from line this to line this. Don't you think people would wonder, what is she doing? She's just staring at her window all of this time. So you have to look at it like it is a movie sometimes. They would be doing something. She would be fixing her hair before she goes into the interview, she would be adjusting her suit, but she wouldn't just be standing there thinking.
Yeah. I mean, that is something. We don't tend to stand still. Even while we're thinking, we tend to be doing something.
Right.
Like maybe we're glancing across the street, or as we're thinking about, is that guy looking at me? No, he can't be looking at me. He's got to be looking at somebody
Right.
behind me. And then you turn around to look and see who's behind you. So when you figure out, no, there's nobody behind me. So maybe he is looking at me. What, did my clothes get are my clothes? Do I have a stain on my blouse? Is that why he's staring? And that chain of thought, I suppose is telling too. Because if you have that chain of thought, you can tell you're dealing with somebody who got some self-esteem issues.
Mhm.
Their go-to thought is not that the guy would be staring at her because she's attractive, but because
Right.
there's something wrong with her.
Exactly.
First, it couldn't possibly be me he's staring at. Okay, there's nobody around me, so it's got to be
Right.
me he's
That
staring
means
at.
something. Why would anybody look at me? And then,
Yeah.
there must be something wrong. That's why they're looking at me.
Exactly. So then you're looking at your clothes. Is that I have a rip, a tear, a stain? What's going on here?
Right.
And then when you eliminate all those possibilities, is he looking at me? It's like, really? You're interested in me,
It
dude?
gives you an opportunity to organically show what this person is wearing rather than, let me halt the story and say, today she was wearing this with this and this. Okay, now we will continue with the story. No, incorporate it in their actions. So it makes, so we're revealing this information without halting everything else that is happening in the story.
Exactly. And I think that's a beautiful thing. If you can incorporate that into revelation about their character, about who they are and how they feel about themselves, then yeah, you've kind of you've got the golden goose, so to speak, of being able to captivate the reader's attention, show the details that they need to see to get a real feel for who this character is, physically as well as mentally, and then but do it subtly without like bludgeoning people over the head with it. Oh my goodness. So we have talked about your new script that's coming out. When is that going to be done? This
I don't have a timeline yet. Again, it's very
it's very early stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to figure, I want to start filming in October, which is why I'm working on it now, so I don't feel rushed going into it. And then I'm also doing a banned books project, which is in September. So I'm working on that right now. So again, I'm not doing it all at the last minute.
Yeah.
And what that is, we have banned books week in September. So for each day of the week, 7 books, 7 different panels discussing a banned book and what it means to them to read banned books and why this particular book was banned and what we can learn from the story and why it is important to read banned books and not to censor artists. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, it's important not to censor them. And so I am in the middle of reading a lot of very interesting books right now.
I don't doubt it. And there are parts of me that can understand the desire to ban certain books, but I also understand, as an artist, that it's important not to censor because sometimes we miss important, even if we don't agree with the thought, we need to know the thought exists. You can't counter what you don't know exists. Like, I'm not somebody who's a fan of racism, but I need to know that they exist. I need to know how they think so I can talk to them and maybe talk them down off that wall.
And banning a book that has racism does not remove racism.
No, it doesn't.
At all.
It's like pretending that things don't exist. When in fact, instead of confronting the reality that, okay, this exists, what can we do to combat that?
A book might show you how to handle it.
Exactly.
Or expose you to the idea that this thing is racism that you didn't know was racism.
Right. Or it might even help you understand how people got to that chain of thought so that you can point out, okay, this is the problem with that chain of thought. No, it's not an accurate depiction. This is a very limited perspective you're looking at. I can see where you're going with it, but it's cray-cray. So to speak.
And that's true for so very many things. I mean, I tried to pick a diverse group of books that were banned for all different reasons. I didn't want it to all be the same thing. So I have 7 different books with there's immigration stuff, there's racism, there's homophobia, there's anti-witchcraft stuff. Like Harry Potter is one of the books because it was banned and burned because there's magic present. And
Yeah.
I am a Christian. I can still enjoy a Harry Potter book, okay?
Well, my point of view is that if you really want to, I think Harry Potter is beautiful. I read the books to my son when he was growing up, and I am a Christian also. And one of the things I think people miss is that it's not really promoting magic. If you want to stop and take a look at the world of magic never developed. They're still stuck back in the Middle Ages because they didn't have to work. They didn't have to think about it. They didn't have to try for it. They could just poof it and it was done, right? So what you're looking at is the stagnation of society because there were no challenges to be faced. Whereas the Muggle world, who continued facing the challenges, develops, grows.
I've never heard such a pro-Muggle statement.
But I mean, if you look at it, it really isn't. It isn't really positive about magic. In fact, if you, like I said, it kind of paints the magic world as having stagnated. In fact, Voldemort's the only challenge they ever really faced, and they didn't win. Love won, but they didn't win, right? And so it's not until you get two people raised in the Muggle world, Hermione and Harry, and then somebody whose father dealt with a lot of Muggle artifacts, Ron, you get those three together, and they're the ones who are able to step forward and find creative solutions to the problems that the magic world is facing and solve it.
So what you're saying is the characters who have ties to both worlds, where they were not segregated and left to their own devices,
exactly,
are stronger for the diversified information, you know?
Exactly. Their diverse experiences bring more to the table than those who are strictly Muggle or strictly magic. It's when we
Which is why I think it's good to read all of these books that are banned, because someone doesn't want you to have information. Because think about it. What is the motivation behind banning books? If you don't want your kids reading it, then don't let your kids read it.
Well,
who are you to tell a book or what they're allowed to sell, or an artist what they're allowed to write? Like, what is the line there? I just don't understand why anyone would think I get to tell you what you're allowed to do.
There's always a tendency to want to prohibit certain behaviors as a society, and that's a normal tendency. We do have prohibitions against murder for a good reason. Generally think it's not a good idea to run around killing people. That's just my
reading
perspective.
A book murder?
Well, I can see the understanding that, especially with children, problem is parents need to take responsibility for knowing what their children are reading
you
and
handle
reading
what
along
your
with
child
them.
reads. Don't limit what other people are allowed to let their children read. You handle yours, and then stay out of it.
Yeah, well, I personally do believe that parents do need to be not only aware of what their children are reading, but reading it along with them.
Yes,
pointing
helping
out
them to interpret it.
Right, helping them to interpret it, helping them if you have a challenge, if it's you feel it's going against the Christian worldview, point out what the problems are. Point out why this isn't something that we feel we should be promoting or that people should be doing. And, if you approach
but don't
it from
stick
that,
their head in the sand like this is not a thing that is happening. Nobody ever thinks this. You're not arming your children for the world when you do something like that.
No, because once they get out of your house, they are going to encounter it. And if you haven't helped them to figure out how to think critically,
they're not going to be armed to handle it.
They're not going to be armed, and they're not going to be prepared, and they're going to end up falling down the same rabbit holes you were trying to prevent them from falling down in the first place.
Because they won't have the ability to have their own critical thoughts.
Right, exactly. It's important to teach our children how to think, not what to think.
Right.
There's a huge difference between those two.
Definitely. Don't remove their choices, help them make choices.
Right, help them make the choices that are good for them, that are healthy for them, and understand why those choices are good and healthy. Not just tell them this is what you should do, but help them understand what are the consequences of doing it the other way. Why are we promoting this? Why is this a healthier choice?
So yes, that's what we're going to be doing in September, is going through those. And that's why I have a huge reading list right now. Because, in addition to all my other reading, I now have these 7 books that I have to finish. And I'm still part of Henderson Writers Group, and we do an author book club every month. So I need to find time to fit those in there as well. And I'm still reading craft books to improve myself. So I've been doing a ton of reading right now. I am making full use of all of the options, whether it is Kindle or Audible or just a regular hard, I have a hard book by my bed. I have Kindle on my phone and on my mini iPad. So I always have that available. I have Audible on both of those as well, so that there's no excuse. I can always have one of these available for me.
That's really good. I have to confess, a lot of my reading is done on the internet, and I'm not sure that it's the highest quality reading I could be doing. So I need to
get on
back.
Goodreads.
Yeah.
When you get on Goodreads, it gives you that motivation to finish books,
Yeah.
Like you're competing with yourself. Like you set a goal and then, you know what, you're behind in your goal. I need to read this book. But because of this project, I'm now ahead of my goals.
Yeah, see, there you go. I mean, that's the benefit of joining in with projects, right? You start to have incentives to step up and get those goals met, because you're going to have people who are going to hold you accountable for it.
Yeah, well, I hold myself accountable, I do, but I also have a group of friends. Like every year we've been coming up with a really important goal to us, and there are consequences if we do not achieve that goal. And they are not pleasant consequences. It's whatever you're thinking, it's probably worse.
Oh,
like one of the hardest parts about it is you have to donate $100 to a cause you don't believe in, something that you hate.
That would be a challenge for a lot of people. Yeah.
So it's very painful.
Yeah.
Luckily, none of us have failed yet.
Well, that is good. That's good.
But, just bragging rights, that would be motivation enough. No, when you know that there are animals on the line or a cause that you care about on the line, and you're going to donate to their enemy, no, you are going to get that project accomplished.
Yeah.
It taught me to be very, very precise in my goals for this game.
That also helps, though.
You don't want to have this vague thing of, I don't know what done means, no, done means this.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, and being precise in your goal setting is helpful, actually, because a lot of times we'll set vague goals. I want to be better by the end of the year. Well, what is exactly meant by better? Better at what? You want to be better read? You want to be better behaved? And in what area of your life do you want to be better behaved? Being more specific.
Even to say more disciplined, you need to have a specific goal. I want to write X amount of days this year. This something you can track, something that you can look and see, yes, I did accomplish this goal. It's not something you decide whether you achieved, it's something you can see whether you achieved. There's proof.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I journal my goals, is I get to check them off when they're done. And then I can go back through, and if I'm feeling especially critical of myself or feeling like I haven't actually done much, I can go through and see, oh, wait, no, I finished 40 projects in a week. I have been accomplished.
Yes.
I have been productive. I may not have gotten everything done that I wanted to do, but I got a lot done. So, and I think we can tend to be overly critical of ourselves when we're high achievers. Like we don't count the accomplishments because maybe they happened so quickly, or we didn't achieve the bigger goal that we had. So we don't count the little ones. But I have learned it's important to take moments to celebrate the little accomplishments. So you do recognize, yes, I am accomplishing things. I am being productive. I don't have to beat myself up.
I'm guilty of that. There are times, let's go back to acting. Let's say I have 5 roles that I want to land in a particular period. And I keep missing this role. I missed this one. I audition, I missed this one. And then someone hands me a role. I won't count that. And no, that counts. You put in the work. It just wasn't a direct link. They see you doing all these other things. Just because someone offers you a role without an audition does not mean that you didn't earn it. But I fall into that trap of thinking I didn't earn this one. But they didn't just see you on the street and give it to you with no credentials under your belt, you know?
Yeah,
I have to remind myself that that counts. Even if you didn't audition for this role, all the work you put into previous roles and the work you've put into preparing auditions, like all of that helps to raise your skill level.
Yeah.
So it does count.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when you are a high achiever, we do tend to undermine our accomplishments. Like I remember after publishing, a book, it was like, oh, well, I just published, big deal. It wasn't a big name publisher, so it doesn't really count. No, it counts. It was published.
Just look at how many people don't even get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so I had to start learning to train myself. No, okay, let's acknowledge that this is an accomplishment. Maybe it's not the big accomplishment we wanted, but it is still an accomplishment.
It is an accomplishment, and it does count.
Mm-hmm. And
it's not like no work went into that effort, right?
Right, exactly. And, I've gotten speaking engagements without putting in the work that a lot of people do, but on the surface anyway, right? I didn't have my network.
You didn't put it in directly for that.
Exactly.
But you put it into the universe. You put it into your relationships that you built through previous.
Exactly.
Things. It wasn't, oh, let me just pick a name out of the air and hey.
Yeah, no, they didn't just call me at random. It was because I developed my expertise in a certain area. I had spoken to them about it. They knew I knew my stuff and they wanted me to present to somebody else. So that's how it happened. It was all that preparation work, all those years spent developing that expertise that got me the opportunity. So yeah, maybe I didn't go through the hoop.
It's funny that you say that because I'm about to teach a class at Lounge Writers, which is Oksana Marafiati's, she has this amazing writing group that to me feels very prestigious. And I have a teaching spot on her roster, which to me just seems like it's out of my reach, it doesn't seem like I should do. But my mentor for me, I'm sorry, have you taught this class? Well, yes, a few times. And it started like this, and I put this work into it, and then I built it to this, and then I was asked to speak on it here, and then I was asked to speak on it here, and it's just developed into a thing. Yeah. So you are qualified, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I realized the other day I tend to undermine my accomplishments a lot because I don't even count them as things. Like I didn't even put something in my pitch because I wasn't thinking about the fact that I founded a writers group, grew it from 5 people to 25 people over a 3-year period. And of those 25, like half of them were regular attendees, and of the half of the regular attendees, about 25% of them ended up being published writers. So, I don't count that.
In all of those ones.
Yeah, but I need to count that. I need to look at that as a thing, and
that kind of thing doesn't just happen. You have to put work into it. You have to nurture it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the people will leave.
Yeah, it did take work, and I did nurture them, and I did help them grow, and there are things I could have done better, and I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that could have been done better. But I also look at what I did, and it was like, wow, that was pretty genius. I need to write that down.
Do that one again.
Exactly. So, if we don't ever stop and take a look at our successes, we can't capitalize on them. If we don't ever look at our
accomplishments, right? Like you have to assess it. Do this one over. That was not your best effort. You can do this better, and then do this again.
Yeah, figure out what you did that didn't work so you can eliminate those mistakes, but capitalize on the things that did work so that you can do it better the next time. And that's where I'm at right now.
And that's why I'm excited about this class, because it's going to be the best I've ever taught it, because every time I do it, I think it gets stronger.
And when is this class?
New people behind it. I have new experiences to back it, new things that I've read that can feed into it, that kind of thing.
So when is this class that you're
It
teaching?
is July 22nd.
Ah, maybe slightly after this video gets posted, unfortunately, but
All right.
well,
I'll teach it again.
yeah, I'm sure you will. But that it sounds so awesome, though. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is huge. And that's the kind of thing that starts to get your credibility. I mean, once you start presenting at one area, people hear about the presentation, they ask you to come present again. And that's where you build your credibility.
Right. When I started this, I thought I was doing this for members of Henderson Writers Group and then the Las Vegas, the Southern Nevada writing community. It started off as just me trying to assist as the education coordinator for Henderson Writers Group. But now I've been teaching it at conferences and now for Oksana's thing. So it started off me serving other people and now it's benefiting me. But I'm also learning every time I do it. And my writing is being affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
I am increasing my ability to cover these areas and work it into my fiction better, as well as teach other people to do so. So
yeah, I think that is something you said there is huge. You started off with the intention to serve. And that's just something I tell people all the time. Whenever you step up with the intention to serve, not with the intention to gain out of your service, but just purely to serve other people, you are sowing the seeds of your own future success. And depending on what the harvest is, you may not know what that seed is. Could be a tomato seed and it comes up in 60 days. Could be a pumpkin and it comes up in 4 months. Could be a tree and it comes up in 4 years. You don't know what you're planting.
Right, but you are planting seeds. And if you get over yourself and do it for other people, to me, the rewards are endless. I was too scared to even talk to people when I started Henderson Writers Group. And then I volunteered to help out with scheduling for Dime Grinds, which is the author meeting. Well, that meant I had to talk to people. I had to talk to authors and ask them if they wanted to do this. And it had to not be about whether I was too scared to talk to people. It was, hey, this group is counting on you to bring in people, and these authors deserve to have their work presented. So get over yourself and go talk to them. And it just got easier and easier and easier because it wasn't for me. It was for them and for the other people. And even though I'm not education chair anymore, I'm still the Dime Grinds coordinator because I really love presenting these people to the world. Now that we're online, we've had international events. So I'm exposing authors to people all over the world that they would not otherwise get to meet.
Yeah.
Or get to share their, they wouldn't get to share their work with so many different types of people. So even though it's not for me, I'm getting the reward of seeing this happen. And then I'm making all kinds of amazing contacts. Yeah, if someone's like, hey, do you know an author who does this kind of thing? Yes, I do. I know tons of authors because I got over myself, invited them to do this thing. And now you need what? A romance author or something? I connect you with that person. You need a sci-fi author? I can connect you with that person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's made me a connector, which again, is helping me to serve others.
Yeah. And the benefit, they say that your network is your net worth. Because the more people that you know and who know you and who know what you can do, the more opportunities come your way. You're just opening the door.
And I feel very blessed with my network because I've been exposed to just wonderful, amazing people all over the world, different genres, different writing levels. It's not just about the people with the highest success. You can learn from everyone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that can be a mistake that we make in our society is that we don't tend to listen to those who haven't hit that high bar. Oh, they're a national bestseller or international bestseller. Well, this person's not, so obviously they're not that good. And maybe they have more to teach you than you think.
Right. And I believe in the rule of thirds. You should spend a third of your time with mentors who know more than you do, so that you can gain from their knowledge and experience. A third of your time with people who are on your level so that you can be on this journey together and reinforce each other's journeys. And then a third of the time with people who don't know as much as you do so that you can help them reach their goals, help them to achieve what they have in store for them.
Yeah, because you learn 90% more from teaching than you do from anything else.
It really reinforces everything too. It does.
And you're thinking through it as you're teaching. You're breaking it down into smaller components. I often say, if you really, really want to get good at something, write a kid's book. Try to teach a kid. Like,
because you have to keep it so simple.
Because you have to boil it down to its simplest components. And when you can boil it down to its simplest components and present it to other people, then almost everybody will catch on.
And it's not about thesaurus words.
Mm-mm.
It's about clarity.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's absolutely about clarity. And one of the things that we can do when we're starting to write is that we can try to stuff our work with highfalutin words. You know, the kind of words that might be found in a college textbook that we're familiar with, which is fine. But we need to remember that our readers aren't necessarily where we were, right? They're not necessarily college level readers.
And if all your words sparkle, you can't distinguish the shine.
Exactly. So it's important to study how to simplify our language so that it's super clear what we mean to anybody that we speak to. I think that is a massive benefit to any person who's writing. You know, if you can just simplify your language to its finite context, then you got it to the point where just about anybody can pick up your book and understand what's going on, which is good. I'm not going to say that everybody should be your audience, because I do think that's a mistake. Don't make everybody your audience, but you want anybody that is in your audience to be able to read it and understand it. My goodness. So thank you, Tonya. I know that your time is super valuable, and so I really want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today for this episode of It's Truly Novel. Congratulations on the work you're doing on your film and on all the other stuff you've got going on. Banned books in September. Now, if somebody wanted to connect with Ms Tonya Todd, where would they go?
Well, you can go to my website, Ms Tonya Todd. That's MSTonyatodd.com. You can follow my newsletter there to keep track of what I'm working on. You can follow me on IMDb as Tonya Todd.
Okay, awesome. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on. I know that our guests will have benefited from our conversation. We meandered all over the place, but that's how I like it.
Right. Thank you for having me. And, congratulations on your new podcast. You have entered a new realm, and, you're making things happen.
I am definitely getting interviews done. It is crazy. I started in May, and I have kept going all the way to this point. And we're at the top of July. And I still have a few episodes that I'll be posting this month.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is. It's a considerable amount of work. I am fortunate to have my husband to help me. It is his birthday today. So he helps me with the video editing.
Birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Randy.
And so he helps me with the video editing so that I can focus on the interviewing and the booking. And somehow between the two of us, we managed to get it done.
Because you're a good team.
All right. Well, thank you again. We will talk to you later, everybody. Thank you for watching this episode of It's Truly Novel. I encourage you to go check out Ms Tonya Todd. That is MS Tonya, TONYA, Todd, TODD.com, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And I'll post descriptions and the links and stuff in the
show notes
description. Yeah. So you can find it there. All right. And have a great day.